Hello and welcome to a look at Moon Patrol for the Commodore 64. An arcade original that, according to this, was done by Williams. That is the license Atari obtained in order to make this version. But it is actually originally made by Iron Corporation. Yes, the company that gave us R-Type much later on. They licensed it to Williams and Atari got the license from there. Regardless, in Moon Patrol you play as a copper who has to patrol Lunar City, and in order to complete your patrol route you have to go from A to C. The challenges you face on your patrol route are predominantly flying enemies and craters to jump and rocks to either shoot or jump over, at least early on. The game is divided into sections lettered A to C, as you may have gathered by now, and those sections are divided into smaller blocks where you are scored based on your time spent reaching those blocks, and you will get a bonus score if you make it quicker than what is considered to be the average time for a certain stretch. Each letter section has its own unique set of challenges, and they stay the same. If you have 3 flying enemies between A and B, there will be 3 flying enemies between A and B at all times. So in that regard, the challenge is something that you can memorize and overcome due to that. If you keep moving, then certain enemies from one section may still be present in another section, and in that regard they will still influence your gameplay, so to speak. But there are no random extra spawns anywhere. It is fixed to whatever letter section you are currently on. And of course, things don't stay that simple. Later on you will bump into minefields and all sorts of other fun stuff to keep you entertained and challenged. Let's go graphics and sound, because let's just get that out of the way. The graphics are relatively simple, but to be honest, I mean, all things aside, not that different from the arcade version. I mean, it's an early arcade, it shouldn't necessarily be super hard to emulate, but at the same time we have seen later on that even relatively basic arcades have been absolutely mistreated on the home computer versions. So in that regard, I think Moon Patrol on the Commodore 64 is actually it's not pretty, let's face it. We can probably agree it's not pretty, but it's pretty close to the arcade. It's decent enough. It's easily recognizable compared to the arcade version. The music is the same theme, but given the set treatment instead, and the sound effects are a bit perhaps aggressive, but they're still relatively close to the arcade's original. When it comes to the gameplay, because of course gameplay is paramount in any game, yes, it is simple. It is jump obstacles, shoot enemies, and memorize the different sections. But underneath the simplicity, there is a level of complexity, which may sound a bit bizarre, but your moon buggy has speed settings, and I mean, it's not something that you're not setting an accelerator or something, whatever, but you, by moving the joystick left, you will slow down. By moving the joystick right, you will speed up to a certain point, of course, in both directions. But obstacles and jumps and all sorts of things many of them are speed related, so you actually have to have a certain knowledge of what sections come up in order to successfully navigate them using correct speed, and thankfully you can change speed in mid-air. So it is actually quite clever for an old game like this. The challenge is moderate, I would argue, not necessarily the hardest game in the world, and it comes with infinite credits, which I do find to be a bit jarring, perhaps. but you can always pace yourself and choose your own game over thing. It resets the scores between continues, so. It also comes with a champion level, which the arcade also did, but you had to complete beginner level in order to access champion level, I'm fairly sure. Which is basically the same game with the car changing color, so you can see on the higher difficulty level, and obviously it's much harder than beginner. Also more exciting, like enemies coming from behind that you have to jump over and get your timing right. Yes, it is an early arcade, and yes, it is rather simplistic in many ways, but it's no less enjoyable. We had a local takeaway who had some arcade machines from time to time, or no, not from time to time, all the time at least, but different version or different games were rotated from time to time. That's what I tried to say. It was very difficult to say. And Moon Patrol was one of them, and it sold a lot of my coins, relatively speaking, and a lot of other youngsters' coins. Compared to later games, of course, this is a bit simple. But back then, was some of the most exciting gameplay you could get in an arcade, and I only meant to do enough gameplay to have footage for this video, but I found myself playing for about an hour and a half. Yeah, it's one of those kind of games. There's this simplicity to it, but it is still incredibly enjoyable. Of course, if you like this type of game, if you don't, you're going to hate the living crap out of it. But you know what? That's okay. It's part of gaming history, and as a conversion, it's, I'd say, more than decent. On that note, thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time. Bye bye.